Hey YouTube, it's Jason Love with Jason Loves Life, and I have special news today. I just found out that DC Comics is going to be available on Kindle, iTunes bookstore, and Nook, which is Barnes & Noble's digital platform. And people are kind of, they're just talking about it because it's sort of interesting. DC Comics is actually one of the top comic book publishers. Some of the books they publish, are the ones that we all enjoy, like Justice League, Green Lantern. There's a bunch. They have Sandman, because they actually have several different, published. So the way businesses work, you got like the big one that's DC Entertainment. They have DC, what is underneath that? DC Comics, and then they have Vertigo, and they have Mad. So there's all kinds. I know Batgirl's in there now. I know none of you probably read Batgirl. Who really does? Just joking, Batgirl fans. Please don't send me emails. I just don't read her. Anyways, so it's kind of obvious why they're doing this. They're doing this because that comic book fans are also people who tend to geek out on technology. So it makes sense, to offer them a technology-based way to read their comic books. They can also reduce the number of orders they have to print, which can be time saving. I haven't looked at the price points yet. I looked at the price. I've looked through Comixology and those sites, and I imagine depending on what percentage they take. Now, some of those I'm sure take a higher percentage. I don't actually know what Diamond Distributing. I don't know what the percentage they take. I haven't gone through them because I haven't published my comic book yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to yet. Good chance I'm going to try at least. I might even just go through a publisher and not have to deal with them. But as it looks now, I'm not going through a publisher independent, and I'll have to go through them. But I'm also going to go digital. So, anyways, I imagine that they're making money off of a higher percentage of the digital downloads than they do. But I'd have to do the math, and I'm sure there's stuff in there that I don't realize. So don't quote me on that. Let's see what else. Okay. Also, it's just easy. They already have the digital files. So, it's actually kind of a no-brainer, unless they're, I don't know, I guess, I very much doubt that they're not using just digital, they're not doing the old-fashioned way of doing it. They literally already make it, it's already ready to be, they might have to put it through different formatting. I know Kindle's super easy because that's the one I've been looking into. The only problem with those is I know that image size can be an issue. I don't know what, I haven't experienced it yet, but I assume that, you can automate that pretty easy with just some simple computer software programs. So what this means for independent comic book creators like myself is, to me, it's a good thing. Now, the downside, before I go into what's good about it, the downside is I was hoping to get in there. I wish I could have got in there before them, at least a month before them. I didn't realize they were planning this. I wouldn't have been able to speed up my thing, but I'm hoping to get mine out there in December, if not January 1st. My goal is to get it out there by December to the general public. But the only problem with that is I want to get my Kickstarter fans to get their copies at least a couple weeks before anyone else can order them. So that's the downside, is you're competing with, strong brands. Now, the positive side is those strong brands bring comic book fans to those sites, to those stores, to those platforms. And, that just gets more eyes up, there. It's kind of like being in a comic book shop. If you could get all your comic books into independent bookstores, they probably wouldn't do so well. But if you can get them into every independent comic book shop, people are there to buy comic books. So if you get people there to buy those comic books, they might buy yours. But there's three main things that make me excited about this. Very excited. One is it shows that there's money to be made in digital distribution, which is, for the independent artist, beautiful. I know it's kind of nice to if you have a publisher, if you have somebody self-publish them, send them to Diamond, and then do all. It kind of becomes automated. They kind of take care of it, but at the same time, there's just a lot that can go wrong, and a lot you can lose, a lot of stress. But with digital, you just get it up there, have a file. You don't have to leave your house. You don't have to probably call anybody if you can do it right. You can hire someone to do it for you. So it shows that there's money to be made, and as an independent artist, it makes life beautiful. Also, what it shows, the second thing, is it shows that those platforms can handle comic books. That was one of my biggest fears going into it. I've been on some forums and talking with people about Kindle, kind of being nervous about Kindle, and they were saying one of the problems is if it's above a certain file size, they charge a little extra to the seller. So they take, I believe it's like 30%, and then they'll say, okay, your file is above this amount, so we're going to charge you, $1 for X amount of, I don't know if it'd be gigabytes or megabytes or whatever. I don't know, because I don't know how, and it has to do something to do with like 3G, like people who are buying it, not connected to the internet, because they have to send that. But anyways, it means that at the very least, there are being policies put in place. If you're the first comic book guy there, they're kind of be nervous and they're going to be worried. But now that there's somebody you can just be like, hey, how are they able to do it, and then figure it out that way. And it shows that consumers are looking. They're looking for digital formats, because there's no way that I'm sure they spent thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars doing research. I would assume. In my mind, it'd be like no brainer. But I'm getting my MBA. I'm just 2 classes away, so I kind of know how the corporate brain works and how companies spend money. And I also, as a performer, have performed for a lot of corporations, and a lot of them, when they get to a certain height, they don't want to fail. So what they'll say is they'll be like, okay, it doesn't cost us anything to do this, really. It would cost us less money to just do it and see what happens than it would to test it, but they don't want to be wrong. They don't want to be wrong. So a lot of corporate guys will say, okay, we'll put $100,000 into testing. We'll find out what the market wants. That way, if anyone says, how's that going? You'll be like, oh, they don't want it or they do want it. But if you just went out and did it, there's this thing where they'll be like, oh, it failed, so then the leader's a bad leader, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, well, in theory, it would have been smarter just to put it out there. So to me, that tells me they've done some testing, just because it's a big company. Big companies always want to test. They're not always right in their testing, but they usually test. So anyways, very excited. It gives me, now I know what platforms to shoot for. I've been wondering what platforms, digital platforms, because I figure if it's good enough for DC, it's good enough for me. I might try to do some stuff more through, I don't know, just to offer some free, because eventually I'm going to do some free, not the first comic book, some free stuff, so that I'm going to have to play around with. Actually, I think they do that too. The only problem I know is their software, I don't know if it's DC, I can't remember which one I was on, it's one of the top ones, and they use Flash software, and I'm not sure how that goes into, looking at mobile websites. So anyways, that was a little bit of got off track a couple times, but happy to say DC's going digital, and so am I.